Morning, everybody. This is Doug Pinter on Daily Energy with Anytime Fitness North Peoria, and my buddy, good friend, go-to professional, Brent Fox with Summer and Associates in-house this morning. Morning, Brent.
Morning, Doug. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Well, we're going to jump right into things. We got a lot to cover today. Let's first start off. Cubbies, I'm not that guy. My party is over until I heard the news yesterday that Chris Bryant, MVP. I mean, that's pretty exciting for the Cubs. I know there was a little bit of a conversation between Lester and Rizzo and Bryant. So, I mean, I favor Chris Bryant. I think what he did in his rookie season, hitting all those home runs, what he brings to the team is intangible. Now, granted, everyone can make a good case for Rizzo and Arrieta and Lester and Hendricks pitched an unbelievable season. Probably not Jason Hayward because his bat went cold for the whole season. But, hey, what do you do? He's an ex-Cardinal.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Wow.
That's the way we're starting this morning, everybody. I've had a pot of coffee. I've been up since 5, so get ready for a lot of moving around, jitterness. So Chris Bryant wraps up the MVP for the Chicago Cubs. And
Quick question on that, though. What were you doing at age 24?
8:24.
At age 24?
At age 24.
I think he's 24, isn't he?
I was traveling on tour.
Yeah, well, that's good. I wasn't doing anything with my life at age 24, and especially not winning MVP awards or golfing on the Pro Tour. So,
how about the class he carries himself with?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like the fact that he's seemed to be a humble, respectable guy and gives something the younger generation can look up to instead of the kind of the me monster with all of that. So, I like him. I'm glad he won. Congratulations. I wish I could win something like that ever in my life, let alone at 24.
That's the thing. We finally got a role model, Cub fans have a role model that my son can look up to, and I'm pretty sure Chris Bryant isn't going to do anything to cause major waves just in the first 2 years of his professional career with the Cubs. Unlike this guy, Johnny Manziel, you're a moron. Yeah, I'm going on another rant. Last week was Colin Kaepernick. This week I got Johnny Manziel on my radar. He's reaching a plea deal. There's no terms of this plea finalized yet. You know, criminal investigation on hitting and physical abuse, whatever the case may be, driving down the interstate, causing an accident. The thing I love, there's no NFL teams interested in this guy. I think the NFL is seeing through his smoke and mirrors, and they're finally fed up with all of his shenanigans. And you know what? I think he's made his bed. Now he gets to sleep in it. Yeah. He actually just re-enrolled back into Texas A&M to finish out his education. So what's that tell you? He's probably getting some legal counsel saying, you know what, buddy? Doesn't matter how good you can throw a ball. No one's hiring you.
Yeah.
So
get your act together. I heard on the radio this morning that there's a gentleman who's 55 years old, and he's a running back on a college team. I wish I had the details on me, but they said on ESPN radio this morning that there's a running back who's 55 years old, and I guess this week or something soon will be his last opportunity to ever have the ball. And they were discussing the fact that if you were 55 years old playing with a bunch of college kids, would you even want the ball? But and to this to Johnny Manziel, he's a guy who really wants to be out there and is working hard and doing the right things. And then you got that guy. So.
Well, good for that guy.
Yeah.
He must be in some sort of physical condition to be able to handle that. So, but Manziel, you get my thumbs down of the week. Another disappointing week. I'm quite frankly, I'm not sure I've heard really great news about Johnny Manziel other than what he did for the Texas A&M program. I mean, he is talented, but unfortunately, some people get in their own ways. But hey, back to Chris Bryant wrapping up MVP for the Chicago Cubs. And speaking of the Cubs, I read an article this morning. Ricketts is planning on reaching out to Bartman again. The Cubs organization has reached out to him. They wanted him to throw out the first pitch of the World Series. Bartman is the smartest guy in the world by not doing that, because if the Cubs would have lost, I think that Bartman officially would have done himself in. He's kind of stayed out of the public scene on this. No one knows where he is or whatnot. But the Cubs are looking to amend that. And, you know, Ricketts said it best, I think. He didn't believe in the curse of the GOAT. He didn't believe in Bartman. What he did believe in is putting quality players out on the field that'll actually get the job done. I think a lot of people use Bartman as a scapegoat on that season for the Cubs, but it all built up. Everything happens for a reason. It all built up, so when the Cubs finally did win it, and I'm still talking about it a month later, that I think people highlight points along the way, and Bartman was one of them.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll come throw the first pitch. Now, let's get on to why we got my buddy Brent Fox, Summer and Associates, in-house. So, well, I'm driving home from Chicago the other night, just minding my own business, early in the morning, and I smoke a deer right on the interstate. I could not believe it. It happened in a blink of an eye. And we're going to talk to people, first-time car insurance, you're out on your own, first-time home buyers. Looking back on it, first off, great job to you and your crew taking care of me.
Good.
It was within 24 hours. I had a quote. I had a reservation for a rental car. I didn't have to do anything, man. I shot you a text.
Yeah.
You helped me out. I spoke to 2 other people. Took a matter of 10 minutes, and I'm taken care of. So thank you to you and your crew.
Yeah, and we'll discuss that a little bit more here as we go, but I just think the reality of that, all of those things go well. All of those things go how they're designed to work when it's done right up front and done right the first time. The difficulties often come in when they're not done right in the first place, and now everybody's backtracking and trying to find a way to get certain things covered or whatever. But when you do it right, when you spend the time and get things set up correctly, when tragedy or whatever happens, it's a lot easier to handle things correctly then. So
yeah, and before we go any further with this show, when we talk about tragedy, our thoughts here on Daily Energy go out to the families that were affected over in Canton with the major explosion. There was 1 fatality, 11 were injured, buildings leveled, several people still, without electricity and without gas. That in the grand scheme is minor, but it's always unfortunate when we have a neighboring town affected with a tragedy such as this. Right. Our thoughts go out to all of you in the Canton area. All the people at Ameren, thank you for all you do. During the winter, power goes out. Who's out there working on those lines in the freezing cold? Right. It's our people, the men and women over at Ameren. My brother-in-law works there, and I greatly appreciate all of the sacrifices they do working around the clock. And unfortunately, Ameren has lost one of their finer employees, 38-year-old male. So our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone affected by that explosion. And hopefully, and I do believe, Canton is a great community. I think that town will come together. I think the local businesses down in the square there. I had dinner last year at a Mexican restaurant down there on the square. It's a great place to walk around, see some people out and about, and the food was great. So thoughts and prayers out to Ameren.
Yep.
Now, getting back to insurance, there's a lot of people affected by that. But let's talk. A lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of student driver cars out there and whatnot. And when I hit my deer, my first thought was, man, I got to get a hold of Brent. Right. How does this all work? And you said spend the time up front to make sure everything is not a cookie cutter, but customized to what I'm looking for. And that's what you guys did, which made this final process. No one ever wants to use insurance, right?
Right.
But when you need it, you want it to work flawlessly. And that's what you guys did. So what do we got to do for our young listeners out there? We got to start asking. I wish I would ask a few more questions and known what my coverage entailed.
Right. I mean, you think about the fact that people between the ages of 18 and 24, for the most part, for the most average, at that point in their life, they're going to be beginning to own stuff. They're going to go out and they're going to begin to get their first insurance policy. And so how do you go about figuring out where do you go, who do you talk to, what do you need? And I would say most people, first move they do is ask mom and dad, who do you have, who do you use? And then it's usually some sort of trusted relationship or someone that they've known for quite a while. And then they'll go over there and say, hey, tell me what I need. They'll sign papers, try to keep it cheap, and then they'll move on, and they'll never think about insurance again until they hit a deer or something like that. So I would say that's the MO for most people, and that's great if nothing ever happens. But the reality is you're spending money on an insurance policy, a contract that I really feel like it's important for people to understand the ins and outs as much as they can. Now, as an agent, yes, that's our job to really get the nuts and bolts and really understand the complex issues within that. But as a person buying the policy, I would say there needs to be some education for you up front right away, that you understand how it works, because ultimately it's your contract with the company, and you really need to understand what you're doing with it. So
once you purchase a car, a home, you're paying insurance for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Or you should be.
Right.
Right? So when you're looking at such a long-term investment, it's worth the 5 extra minutes to go find a trusted insurance person, such as Brent Fox over at Summer and Associates in Washington on the square there, to where you can ask the questions, and you guys are no BS. I mean, you give us the facts, or you gave me the facts to choose from. The $100 policy a month or whatever it may be, cheap is not always good. Right? I think you get what you pay for, especially in insurance.
I would say price is important to everybody. Obviously, we don't want to overspend, but I would say the most important thing to think about is time. If someone's advertising, we do it fast. It's something that I would hesitate. It's something with my livelihood, with my income, with my loss of tangible things like a car or anything like that, and knowing that I want to get those things replaced. I don't want to do something like that fast. And I think sometimes a lot of people come to our door or call in and say, how fast can you get me a quote? And I hate those words because it's like, well, what do you need? What does your life look like? Where are you traveling? How far? What do you use your car for? What kind of house do you live in? Do you rent? Do you own? And all those other things, life insurance, it's all wrapped in together, and we want to paint that picture. We call it risk management, but we want to make sure we understand who you are and where your biggest exposures. And if we're trying to do that fast, there's just too many ways that we can do it wrong. And so, yes, price is important. Your $100 policy might be the perfect policy, but how much time do we really spend making sure it's right up front before you move on and never think about it again? So
I think maybe some people are calling saying, how quick can you get me a quote? Maybe they just don't know the right questions to ask. So I think it starts with, hey, I just purchased this vehicle. What are your thoughts on this? What should my coverage look like, from your experiences? So it scares me to death. I got kids coming up. They're going to be driving in 7 years. And I value insurance now. As I get into this second phase with businesses and things of that nature, looking back, I wish I would have known what I was paying for. I guarantee I was underinsured when I first got my vehicle. And quite frankly, a young person coming out just maybe starting to make some money, trying to save money to buy that house, you get in a wreck and you don't have the right coverage, you're behind the 8 ball for a very long time, starting off what you worked so hard for, going to school for, and all of that by paying these bills off.
Yeah, and some of the things that we can add to an insurance policy, if you understand it, the price is low. Like to add things like rental reimbursement and zero glass deductible and things like that on your auto, or to raise your liability limits up to a level that in our culture today really where it should be. People think, oh, you're just trying to upsell me, or it's going to be really costly. But the reality is, when it comes down to it, it's not very expensive to be able to add those things. And if you budget for it up front and do it right up front, you're going to be okay the rest of your life, being able to handle small increases or changes as you go. But if you jump from a policy that doesn't really cover much and then get with somebody who shows you what you need, it's going to be a harder jump because you're going to have to make a bigger jump from there. So doing it right early, understanding it, is going to help you in the long run. There's a great story when the tornado hit back a few years ago. In fact, we just ran across that anniversary here yesterday. I had a friend who he understood his insurance policy, and he had explained to me the day that he lost his house in the tornado, he had a builder lined up the same day. And it was because he understood, here's how my insurance policy works. Here's what the process is going to be to handle my claim. Here's the things I'm going to have to do on my end to be able to turn in different receipts and things like that. But he had a builder lined up. He had his house back going real soon after the tornado. And he lived in a cul-de-sac where all of the houses were down on the ground, flat as can be. And here he was with a brand new home after a little while, ready, getting his life back in order so he can go back to living life as normal. But it's because he took the time up front to understand, here's how my insurance policy works. Here's how this coverage responds. Here's what my deductibles are. Here's who I call. He understood all those things up front, not completely, but enough to get his life back in order. And then, contrary to that, there were others who just kind of said, hey, I'll just sign the paper. And they were the ones struggling, trying to figure out what to do next. And we can only help them as much as we can. So,
well, and I'm sure your guys were ringing off the hook. And yeah, if you don't understand your policies, you would be left with a ton of questions. It's my good buddy Brent Fox with Summer and Associates in studio this morning on this wonderful Friday. I would be remiss if I did not wish my mother a happy birthday. It was her birthday yesterday, so love you, Mom. Happy birthday. You don't look a day over 30. So, yeah, she's a wonderful mom.
Good.
You know, went home. She's always welcoming, has the family up. She's coming down to help with the kids this weekend. She's always there for me. So thanks, Mom. Love you.
Thanks, Doug's mom.
Thanks, Doug's mom. Hey, you know, you beat me to the topic. Washington strong 3 years ago. You know, Canton, I know you're going through a tough time. If you look at Washington, there's always lessons to be learned. That community came together, helped rebuild. They're a united community over there. When you go over there, people are wearing the Washington strong shirts, and that's a proud community, and they got a lot to hang their hat on. And the devastation, I think, can either tear a community apart or bring it together, and they chose to bring it together. I remember November 17th, 3 years ago, I was in my basement. We were actually getting ready to head up to my mom and dad's for her birthday. It was noon. I'm watching the Bears game, and I said, come on, let's go. And all of a sudden, these alerts came on, and I said, it won't happen. Not us. No way. You know, Peoria, Dunlap, Washington, other areas, we have this force field around us.
And it's November.
Yeah. And it was
a lot of tornadoes hitting in November.
Holy smokes, I'll never forget that day. And I don't get on social media a ton with Facebook, but a little bit that I did, I saw pictures of bikes on other people's homes and just the total devastation. It just made my heart sink again.
Changes your perspective on everything. I think we easily grow accustomed to the things that we have. I mean, even when you talk about Ameren, and we grow accustomed to the fact that we can turn on our lights and get our heat and all these kinds of things immediately. And so when we don't have it, sometimes we get upset. But when tragedy strikes like that, you really see people come together and meet each other's needs. And it kind of gives you a different perspective on taking things for granted and understanding that what some of the things that we consider a right really are a privilege.
Yep, you said a lot right there. That was a good statement. You know, with Thanksgiving comes being thankful. And unfortunately, sometimes major things close to home really open our eyes to what is truly important. For me, that's family and friends and business and in the community in which we reside. I want Peoria and the surrounding communities to be successful and grow young people into being a solid community. So Washington, you're still on our minds. Congrats on rallying and creating that community and leading by example. So now Canton, unfortunately, is faced with this tragedy. I'm sure they'll reflect on how Washington did things and how they can get things back up and going. So, hey, back to Brent Fox, Summer and Associates with Insurance. You know, we were talking just a little bit ago about, God forbid you need your insurance, you know, but how to ask or what questions to ask. I think it's all about limiting exposure. I do not want any loopholes. I do not want anyone coming back and suing me. You threw a stat at me earlier, 33. Go ahead. I don't want to steal your thunder, Brent.
No, it's fine. It's great. I was reading an article recently about just litigation and things in our culture, and there was a study done that said that everybody within the course of a year has a 10% chance of being sued for something. And then another stat said that in your lifetime, you have a 33% chance of being sued for something. And it seems really high. It just seems like but I believe it. And
so do I, unfortunately.
And so when you talk about insurance and we talk about the word liability, maybe to simplify it a little bit, just crap happens. And just the fact that you're a person, I'm a person, we own stuff, we're in and out of our daily lives, we cause risk to other people. And so as you think about liability limits, that's where those litigations, those lawsuits come into play, is being able to pay back for just the fact that we exist and we've caused a problem because of it. I was thinking of a claim of a friend of mine that him and his neighbor were outside talking one day, and they heard some screams from a young kid and realized that the neighbor's kid had fallen into my client's window well and had fractured some bones in his body. And so great guy, both were very cordial, but the reality is now there's going to be thousands of dollars of medical bills and injuries caused to this young man. And so you think about the fact that that's where insurance comes in. No one did anything wrong. No one, maybe he could have put something over the window well, but who thinks about those kinds of things until it happens? And so it's the stuff, no matter how protected you are in your life, how you dot your I's and cross your T's and things like that, stuff happens. And we're just in a culture where we need to make sure that our insurance limits are up to the point where they need to be. And that's hard to predict, because obviously tell me what's going to happen and I'll tell you what you need, and that's impossible to do. But like you said, managing the risks as best as possible.
No one leaves their house going, "Hey, today I'm going to get in that fender bender. I can't wait for that."
Yeah.
Or, "Hey, my house is going to burn down." But God forbid, if something like that were to happen, you got to have a plan in place. And then you also, in my opinion, have a plan B in case plan A falls through.
Right.
That's where you reach out to my buddy here, Brent Fox at Summer and Associates. Limit the exposure. You're talking 33% of us will be threatened with a lawsuit throughout our lifetime. I think when something happens to negatively impact someone, the first thing they think of, I'm suing that person.
Right.
Then they get on the phone, and if they have a legitimate case, which anymore with all of the technology, once you get video or sound or what have you, unless you're Hillary, named Hillary, I don't know, about emails or something, maybe you can get away with it there, but most of the time people are going to try and build a case against you.
Right.
So just ask some of those questions. Hey, here's the value of my home.
Right.
Here's what I have in the home. We're going through that right now.
Right.
You want a list from me on a few things that I own.
Right.
And I'm just, I'm having a hard time finding the time to get it. But I appreciate how you're on me on that. So that way, if something were to happen with my home, I do get exactly what I had replaced, and not have to sacrifice anything.
Yeah, it is difficult with some of the paperwork and some of the tracking down of information. And again, this kind of goes back to the fact of if you understand it and do it right early on, it's much easier. So when you purchase an item and you want to have it insured, you're going to keep receipts. You're going to have the proper paperwork because you understand that I'm going to be able to turn these in and show the value of this item so I can have it properly covered, and those things kind of go smoothly. But if you don't understand it early on, if you don't have somebody sit down and explain how those things happen, purchasing new cars and how insurance takes effect in those kinds of situations, it gets harder as you get more stuff, as you get busier in life, to really understand how that works. And so again, it goes back to education early on, get it right, get it set up, and then the small changes as you go, they're a lot easier, and things are done right.
All right. Hypothetically, I'm at a Monday qualifier for the John Deere Classic.
Had to throw golf in there again, didn't you?
Well, I want to ask this question because unfortunately, I don't always hit the ball straight. Par 5, long story short, I was going for it in 2. This green that I'm going for, did I tell you this story?
I thought it was
maybe
hypothetical.
You don't want to know. Well, hypothetically, yes. I'm sorry, I forgot this is hypothetically.
Perfect every time.
Yeah. So going for it in 2, hypothetically, I pull it. Now, up by the green, far left is a lake. There's a gallery sitting up around the green. There's gentlemen that I see sitting in a lawn chair. My ball took off hot, hypothetically. And it's going right for this gentleman. I know if I yell for and he gets out of the way and it gets through the gallery, it's in the water. I don't yell, hypothetically. And my caddy was getting something out of my bag, so he didn't yell because I told him shut up. And smokes this guy, knocks him right out of his lawn chair. Now, this is a really horrible hypothetical story. What if there was damage done to him?
Well, going back to what we talked about earlier, the fact that you exist and your liability exists because you're a human, you cause some damage to that person. And so if your policy is at the proper levels, it should be able to step in and take care of that for you. Now, I know I'm a little bit wishy-washy on the answer, and it's basically because I want to come back to this. Now, in that question, it's pretty clear cut, but I want to come back to the fact that no 2 insurance policies are exactly the same. And so that's why I want people to understand. And so when we get to specific coverage questions, oftentimes people will come and be like, well, my neighbor got this covered. Why is this not covered for me? And so I'm kind of being a generic on purpose a little bit because it does come down to the fact that you need to have an agent that you can call immediately and present those hypothetical situations to and understand how that works and what you should do in that scenario. And I just don't want to put blanket answers out there because sometimes policies are different.
Well, the first thing I had to ask for was a ruling on a
anybody see
free
it?
drop because I had a horrible lie. I think this guy stepped on my ball
And
after
that's the important part
hypothetically
right now.
it hit him.
Yeah, that's the important part. You just almost killed a guy and you're worried about your lie. I get it. So,
Well, I was trying to make that cut to the John Deere.
right. Next year we get this.
I'm not sure the dozen balls I gave him or the glove
Right.
was. He seemed very appreciative. Long story short, hypothetically, I did chip it up, almost make eagle, and tap in for a birdie. So
Right.
thank you to that gentleman out there.
Yeah. I'm sure he
So am I
probably can't
covered on
remember
that?
it. He
What?
probably can't remember it.
We should probably talk off air on whether I'm covered on that. Otherwise, people will be out there just jumping. If you hang out in the woods long enough, I'm bound to hit you.
Right.
So
Me
this
too.
is bullseye. Hey, quick story about Brent.
Oh, boy.
If you ever need a putter, hey Mike, you ever need Mike's producer over there. You need a putter on your team? Call this guy. I've never seen him miss a putt until he breaks out this new ping zing crazy putter, and then he didn't make a thing that day.
I won that putter at your outing, so I still blame you.
You should donate it back to the foundation and then pull out bullseye.
Yeah, the head fell off bullseye actually, so I had
There's
to.
people out there that can put the head back on for your putter.
Yeah, well, when I won yours, I didn't. I kind of thought I was in your class of skill, but I guess not. So
Well, I've yet to step on a sand beach volleyball court with you. Good reason why. Yeah. Mike's laughing over there. Thanks, Mike, for all that encouragement over there. Again, Brent Fox, Summer and Associates. Well, I'm kind of joking about that hypothetical question, but I'm going to ask you a few questions once we get off here because I don't know what to do besides run.
And that's great, and I love the fact that I have the relationship with you and we're able to help you out with those kinds of things. But again, I just kind of going to keep reiterating the fact that you do need to understand certain, like maybe not specific situations, but the basic understanding of how insurance works in those situations, because you're going to know what to do. Because I can't be there with you holding your hand and those kinds of things. But it's just important that you have those basic understandings. And as an independent agent, and for all the independent agents out there, and they want to help you. They want to educate you. So if it's not us, get with somebody. But sit down, and we really enjoy helping people understand their policy more and more because it not just makes our job easier, but we really do sincerely care about getting your life back in order. So
I know that's the case with you. Here's a great point. Geico. Okay.
Okay.
Hate to throw their name out there. They're all over TV. They sponsor all sorts of football games. I don't know where there's a Geico office here in Peoria. So before you go shop and just buy insurance online from someone you don't know, and when you call, you're talking to different people, go see my buddy. Sit down with him. Have a peace of mind knowing that all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. All right, moving on. I want to send a shout out to Jeff Bach, Attorney at Law. He's one of our go-to pros here on Daily Energy. He was part of the Critton Center Festival of Trees last night. I went with several other business people. And, man, what a great event. It was held right off of War Memorial in Sheridan at the church there on the corner. And, I mean, RLI, the Cubs. There were all sorts of different trees that were, our buddy Jason Councilman, owner of Chick-fil-A, did a great tree with a bunch of gift cards and just raising a lot of money for the Critton Center. The Critton Center, if you don't know, their mission is to protect and nurture children and families. So they help out single parents. They'll take the kids in, help out while that parent's going to work or whatnot, trying to better themselves and their livelihood. Thanksgiving's right around the corner, everybody. Try to make someone's day today, tomorrow, over the weekend. Just go out of your way to do something good for one person. So, hey, Brent, I appreciate your time here. We're going to get to our NFL picks next week. We just had a lot on the docket. So, this is Doug Pinter on Daily Energy with Anytime Fitness North Peoria, and my good buddy Brent Fox with Summer and Associates over in Washington, Illinois. Taking care of all your insurance needs. If you got any questions, if you want them to review your policy, can you do that?
Oh, absolutely. Enjoy it the most.
All right. Hey, Brent, thanks for your time this morning. This is Doug Pinter on Daily Energy. Have a great weekend.